Let's just give it a couple of more minutes. Sometimes it's more challenging to sign on to Zoom.
Hi, Lisa. It looks like you're attending here. Just want to acknowledge you. We're just going to wait and see if we get a couple more attendees. Alex, I sent a little team chat thing. Do you mind checking that and see what you think?
Okay.
So since we only have one, we can wait one more minute, but if there's only, Lisa, it looks like you're the only attendee. Wondering if Michael could promote you and we could have a conversation with you about how you'd like to get this information. If you had specific questions that you like answered, or one of the staff could meet with you individually, or if you'd like us to go through the presentation, we're also happy to do that. But maybe Michael, do you mind promoting her? That'd be great.
Lisa has now been promoted to panelist. It's going to take a minute. Okay, she's now a panelist.
Hi, Lisa.
Good
How are
morning.
you? Good morning.
Good.
Sorry
Good.
to put you on the spot, but you were the only attendee, so we just thought you'd get the Cadillac treatment here of just asking you what if you have questions, or if you want us to walk through everything, or if you want us to meet with you individually. Just kind of it affords us a little bit more flexibility to kind of personalize.
Yeah. Well, since you're all here, it probably makes sense to just ask a few questions rather than go through the whole presentation. I did read through the packet, and I'm sorry I missed seeing this when it came to the Planning Commission initially.
It hasn't come to the Planning Commission yet.
Oh, okay, so good. So I guess it's the Infrastructure Committee that which I confess I don't follow. So there's only so many levels of committee meetings one can follow agendas. So I've gone through this, and the initial question that I had was understanding the feasibility analysis that was done. In the chart, it says that the feasibility for both single family and multifamily is marginal, but the decision was, staff recommendations to go forward with the single family fee, but not the multifamily fee. So I'd like to know more about how that decision was come to, how that decision was derived, because I know our members that'll be their first question. They'll look at that and go, well, it's marginal for single family too. Why are they doing that?
Right, that's a fair question. And you said your members, do you represent a particular organization?
Just so I'm sorry. I
okay.
represent the Building Industry Association of the Bay Area.
Okay, good.
We represent, most of the major, residential builders in the region.
Great. Okay, good. We're glad you're here and talking to us, and so that's great. I'll start, and then Michaela Jellicoe with Community Attributes, also their firm prepared the feasibility analysis, so she can kind of add some. But the bottom line is that while we they both were marginal, but the issue with single family is that we're actually seeing it constructed quite a bit in the city. So we actually, unlike multifamily, we haven't over the last 3 years had any kind of new projects being proposed. We have one Lincoln Landing that's under construction, but that was actually done under, we had a previous fee structure and for our affordable fee. And so since the new fees for the affordable housing were implemented, and over the last 3 years, we have really high construction cost escalation. We haven't seen any multifamily applications, market rate, I should say. We've had affordable that are obviously publicly financed, so that's different.
Right.
Whereas single family, we're seeing a lot of applications, a lot of construction in Hayward. And it really, what the feasibility analysis showed was, where it's marginal is really where some of the land costs have been higher. And so we really see it as kind of variable depending on how much an owner has paid for the property, what the other kind of issues are, like are there geotechnical or seismic work or other things. And so it's a lot more variable there. And because we're seeing a lot of significant construction, we do believe there is a market in Hayward, because we're seeing the reality of that.
Okay.
That said, you'll see that we're actually not recommending the maximum fee. We're recommending a really big reduction in that. So we're trying to keep it actually pretty low, because Hayward, we want housing of all types. So we're very pro housing. So we're not trying to overburden the housing, but we do think there's additional room there because of the amount of construction that we're seeing. So that's my answer. I don't know if Michaela or Alex, you guys want to jump in and add anything?
Oh, I think you covered it well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well too. I think the reason from the feasibility modeling perspective, single family comes up as marginal is just because of the high construction costs currently. So right now there's, high development land costs, which sort of from a modeling perspective make it look marginal. But as Jen said, we're seeing quite a bit of single family development within Hayward.
And I know, talking to builders, because I have relationships with developers and builders, is that a lot of them sometimes some of those costs can be mitigated through relationships they have, that they've pre-bought, lumber, or they have kind of direct contracts for that, and they can keep some of those costs low. So we've, I think they're finding ways to construct single family and townhome development, and that also that you see, unlike rents in Hayward, at least you're seeing home prices escalate and appreciate, which also help counterbalance some of the cost escalation. And unlike market rents right now in Hayward, you're not seeing that kind of, we didn't see a huge drop, but we saw some decrease and then pretty significant stagnation in apartment rents, whereas that was not the case in terms of townhome and single family homes. So some other considerations that we took into account.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we
also-
have, sorry, Lisa, I don't mean to interrupt, but we do have
No, go ahead.
Julie Roche, who's came an attendee. And so Julie, just for because there's only one other attendee, we just promoted panelists. So Julie, if you don't mind, we could promote you to panelist, and we could just we're just having a little bit more of a informal discussion.
And Julie Roche has been promoted to panelist.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I'm just really interested in the discussion, so thank you.
Okay, and the formal presentation we'll be giving to the Planning Commission coming up as well. So you'll hear, so if you're okay, just answering. Lisa's with the Building Industry Association, the BIA, so represents developers and builders. And so we were just kind of having more of an informal conversation since we didn't have a huge, so if you're okay with us skipping the presentation, just asking some questions or answering some questions. Oh, you're on mute, sorry.
That sounds good to me. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, great. Sorry, Lisa.
No problem. Following up on that, I did read in the report that there was a suggestion that there may be somewhat of an offset in terms of now there's going to be a fee charged, so developers wouldn't necessarily be assessed sort of project by project based improvements. And I wanted to understand a little bit about how that would work, because clearly a specific project with specific impacts on transportation would have to make those improvements. Are developers now being charged for some of these broader improvements that will now be replaced by the fee? So if there's going to be a bit of an offset, I think that's important to let builders know too. You're going to be paying a fee now, but it's instead of doing something else.
Absolutely.
Jennifer,
That's a great point. Yeah.
I can take that.
Mhm.
Hi, Lisa. I'm Alex Nameri. I'm the Director of Public Works. I would like to answer your question. What we are excited about here is the fact that this fee is going to streamline the process and bring certainty to the process more than the amount of fee that is going to generate. To give you an example, we had a warehouse here that was supposed to be a distribution warehouse. So we looked at the amount of traffic that it generates and how the streets that they are going to use to get to the freeways are going to be impacted. And we came up with a fee that was to mitigate their impact on our public streets. That fee was a certain amount, was about $5 million. The facility was extremely large, and that is why there is that large fee. This took some time to calculate, some time to work out with the developer. We asked for a specific traffic study related to the development that they had to do. We based on the exactions, the fees that we had based on the traffic study that they had done. Now with this fee, with this new fee, first of all, the amount of fee is going to be about half as much as what the initial request would have been from them. And the other reason is that the fee is going to be available to them, the amount of it available to them upfront before even they submit their application. They know by the size of the development and the function of it, what the fee is going to be. And then they are not going to be responsible for area-wide, regional impacts that they are going to have. There may be some, issues still related to very specific impacts that are not included in the Nexus study that we have done. For instance, to give you an example, if there is a need for a sidewalk in front of their development to connect it to an existing sidewalk, that is not included currently in our Nexus study. So they'll be responsible for that. But for the most part, the fee is going to replace the other mitigation measures that the city would be requiring of that type of development.
Yeah. And just to add, to get a little more specific, so we think a lot of projects through this process will be able to not have to do a local transportation analysis at all, especially the smaller projects. And then bigger projects, we think we're calculating, these are just estimates, but that we think it will actually reduce the cost associated with those local transportation analysis by half. And then the time to review them and prepare them will also be reduced about, by half. So as Alex mentioned, we do see that as streamlining. There are some projects that are complicated and that are going to take a little longer and may still have to have some local transportation analysis if there's going to be those circulation impacts, but we're really hoping to streamline the vast majority of the projects now.
And Lisa, the example that I gave you was an extreme example. The size of that warehouse is 500,000 square feet. So 11 acres under the roof. That's an extreme example. Usually the fees are far less than that and are much more reasonable.
So I guess the point here is that Hayward is already charging transportation impact fees. You're just doing it on a project by project analysis basis rather than a more holistic approach. So
that's right. We're establishing
Correct.
that nexus on a project by project basis.
And to add to that, the traffic impact fee actually replaces the need to study future cumulative traffic impacts. And that's usually the biggest part of a traffic study. So removing that and being able to know what the cost is up front, even before doing the study, helps with certainty, but also they would be paying less than they would before, because previously they would have to pay for their future impacts completely 100%. But because of this, we've reduced it by 30% or 70%. So the fee is now reduced, and it speeds up the process as well.
Correct.
how will that tie into the VMT analysis, which of course will be required under, is being required under CEQA. And in terms of mitigating VMT. Well,
Right,
that's to be
this-
done separately.
Steven, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can jump in and answer that. So this is not, this is outside of CEQA, so all of your CEQA requirements will still be in place. So there will be, if a project doesn't necessitate a VMT analysis, then that would be done separately.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you. That was all the questions that I had initially, so.
Great.
I just wanted to add one more thing about the why the single family development versus the multifamily. There's Senate Bill 35, which streamlines affordable dense housing, so multiple family housing, as well as Senate Bill 330, which is the housing crisis of 2019, which also promotes dense development. So in order to align with those Senate bills, we've decided to help with the housing crisis to give the multifamily land use a break.
Well, thank you, Lisa. We appreciate it. And the Planning Commission will be holding a hearing. What's that date? April
14th.
14th. Yep.
Yeah.
And so we'll be doing a formal presentation as well. So if you want to see that formal presentation.
Oh, definitely. It's a good
And
point.
then, and again, that's still kind of just a work session. So we're still just gathering input and feedback. And Commissioner Roche, do you have any questions or anything you want us to go over?
No, I was just really interested because I had had some discussions, I think it was with the chamber, and they were concerned about the traffic impact fee and how that might affect businesses besides developers. So I'm sort of curious to listen here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we could I'll give you just a brief kind of update. I think what we've heard from the chamber after, Alex talked to them a couple of times is that, just so you know, we're not actually proposing a fee on office or retail development at all, only on industrial development. And it's one of the strongest, and, general industrial and in particular manufacturing and kind of e-commerce. And from a market standpoint, all those uses are very strong and are seeing kind of record kind of demand throughout the Bay Area. So we feel very comfortable that those uses can support a fee. And in fact, we had a industrial broker actually presented to us and said they'd rather have a fee than go through what Alex just said, which is this kind of analysis by project, but it allows them to get streamlined and a little faster, have a little more certainty about their costs up front. So we feel very comfortable, that we're not going to have an impact on kind of the economic development of the city. And then another thing is that one of their big comments was related to what about projects that are already in the works, right? Like, oh my gosh, we're going to change, kind of pull the rug out from under them. And so we have made very clear that this fee would go into effect July 1st, but any projects that had already submitted an application would not be subject to the new fee. So it would only be new applications that come in after the July 1st date. So just wanted you to know, there have been some back and forth in response to some of their questions, but I think what we heard generally was that they were pretty supportive substantively with the fees, because we're in fact waiving a lot of the fees. We're not actually charging fees on very many types of development, but just wanted to make sure we weren't doing anything to hurt projects that were already kind of in the works.
All right, thanks. Yeah, and I'm also just trying to understand it better, like what fees, like I think it was Carmine said that this will actually lessen the fees and where that happens. And then I also wanted to ask Alex, when we went through the whole back and forth with the Amazon last mile distribution center, and there was a talk about what their sort of like fee impact might be, going forward. Does this affect a project like that kind of industrial trucking back and forth?
It does. That was a distribution center, and the distribution centers have now a fee per 1,000 square foot of warehouse space that gives them that fee upfront with certainty, so they know what they are facing. They can put that in their budget rather than mid-process or towards the end of the process, knowing what the requirements are for a local transportation analysis or the amount of fees.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for including me, Jennifer.
Yeah, of course. Okay. If there are any other questions or any other topics you want us just to quickly touch on, we're happy to do that too.
Lisa, I just wanted to mention that I appreciate you attending this meeting, asking questions, and also offer that if you have any other questions that comes to you later on, you can email me directly. We'll be happy to respond and provide any information that you may need.
Oh, you're on mute, but
There we go. Always forget to do that unmuting. Yeah, I appreciate that. And this was the first that I've heard of it. I saw that there was an outreach meeting previously that was held, and I never received any notice of that. So maybe I just missed it and may have gone, errant in my mailbox, but
well, yeah, we'll definitely add you to our kind of developer
Definitely.
list, so you're aware of it. And
we
we're
do have a
glad you're
fair
here.
number
That's
of-
why we
yeah.
held another one, was
Yeah.
just to make
Mhm.
sure. So we're glad you're here now, and we're
Yeah.
not taking this to the council till I believe May 17th. So
Okay.
Correct.
we would do a work session with the planning commission April 14th. So plenty of time to chime in and provide feedback, and
Okay.
happy to listen.
Yeah, I will be putting this out to our members, information that this is happening in our weekly report, which goes out to all members each Monday. And I'll
Thank
also
you.
be contacting our Hayward specific builders that I know are working or thinking about working in Hayward, and alert them, and I'll report back on any issues or concerns that they have. One point is that, if indeed this is going to reduce costs and streamline things, maybe offering the multifamily developers that come in the option of going one route or the other, should you have an application, might be worth considering. Because
Mhm.
indeed, if this is a benefit, as you are arguing that it is,
Good
then
point.
why not extend the benefit to everyone? And I can't speak on the commercial side, that's not my wheelhouse, but that I do offer that out, that it does send a little bit of a mixed message to say, well, we think the multifamily market's too fragile right now to do this, but oh, by the way, those of you that are going to pay, it's going to be good for you. So
Yeah,
it is a
and
little bit of a mix.
Yeah, just to clarify that, when we say we're not proposing a fee, it essentially means the city is kind of eating that cost. So like because we have improvements that we need to make, and
Right.
this is a source of revenue to help pay for some of those costs. So when we say, oh, we're not going to charge the maximum, or we're not going to charge a fee on a certain land use, it basically means we're going to find other funding sources to pay for that. So the multifamily would still receive the benefit of the streamlining. And they still have to do, if it's a big project, like you see Lincoln Landing right downtown, where they're going to have to do some circulation because their cars are going to
Certainly, yeah.
impact certain intersections. So we'd still have a big multifamily project, would still have to do some of that. But we're essentially saying that we're not going to charge them that fee or that impact. And so they're still going to benefit from the streamlining.
Oh, I see.
And just
So they're
have to
not,
pay the fee.
so the multifamily projects that come forward as of July 1 will not pay the fee, and they will also not be required to pay for region or citywide impacts as they would have had to do in the past. Is that correct?
They're still gonna have to do the circulation kind of analysis.
Just their local impact circulation type of thing.
Yeah.
They won't have to do the traffic analysis for the citywide type of thing. So,
Right.
okay, so that's good to know. I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work, so.
Yeah, when you don't charge the maximum or you don't charge the fee, the city is saying we're going to try to find those revenues elsewhere. And we are going to look at it in 3 years though, because I do think what I'm hearing is that the multifamily market is coming back. It just may not have gotten to Hayward yet, right? I mean, we're seeing that in San Francisco and other locations that are kind of more tier 1 locations. But in 3 years, if the multifamily market is doing great in Hayward and we're doing good, then we may reevaluate that and take a look at it.
Right. Yeah, because very few jurisdictions charge the maximum amount. If you did, there'd be 100% of zero is zero, right? So
That's right.
I mean, nothing getting constructed anywhere. Things are already bad enough. So
No, we appreciate that. And that's why we hired Michaela's firm to make sure we weren't going to do anything to hinder production of housing. Or
Absolutely.
right. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.